Every historical period tends to produce its own dominant pathology. Medieval Europe burned witches and tortured each other for fun. Victorian society had hysteria. And the question is, what does our time produce? My name is Arina, I'm a psychologist and psychoanalyst. I created this channel in order to share my knowledge on psychoanalysis, unconscious patterns, and generally anything that can be of use and benefit to you in order to better your life and understand yourself deeper. Give this channel a follow and also like this video. And let's get straight into it. So the short answer is narcissism. Not narcissism in a clinical sense of a personality disorder, with its grandiosity, manipulation, and aggression, but rather as a cultural condition. A pervasive narcissistic crisis many contemporary individuals are living through without ever realizing. That's your short answer. Now I suggest we take a look at how pathology has been always shaped by society and why we ended up precisely here, as well as obviously what to do about it. I suggest we take a history walk. To understand today's pathology, it's important to understand yesterday's. If you want to skip this part and move straight away to something that preoccupies us right now, I time-coded this video so you can move on to the next chapter. But in this one, I won't go as far back as Middle Ages, but we do need to start with hysteria, the condition to which Sigmund Freud owed the birth of psychoanalysis and many of his groundbreaking theories. And before you come at me for Freud, I would like to remind what psychoanalysis was invented against. At the end of 19th century, the predominant treatment for neurosis was electric shock. No talking cure in sight. So the next time someone casually dismisses Freud, it's worth remembering that we owe talking therapy exactly to him, or precisely to Anna O. Without that shift, you might be still getting electric shock for your anxiety. But one of the most important insights of psychoanalysis that I want you to understand today is that symptoms never appear randomly. A symptom is always a compromise between a desire, prohibition, and what the culture allows to express. To understand hysteria, we have to understand the society that produced it. Victorian culture was rigid, moralistic, and patriarchal. The public world belonged to men. Women were denied political rights, education, and any kind of autonomy. Fathers were authoritative and more often than not abusive. Divorce was also not an option, and this was something normalized by society. Speech was constrained, sexuality was intensely moralized, especially women's sexuality. Social roles were fixed. But on another note, it was a theatrical culture. People went to theater, balls, they read dramatic novels, and they believed in grand narratives, visible conflicts, and resolutions. And hysteria emerged precisely here. It was a condition marked by seizures, paralysis, hallucinations, fainting, and blindness. Very dramatic, right? Hysteria was a product of the society in which the body was the only acceptable outlet for psychic discharge and psychic conflict. The body was essentially the stage. Paralysis, fainting, blindness, and all of those dramatic symptoms, somatic symptoms, were not random or medical occurrences. They were the performances of conflict. The symptoms made visible what couldn't be said, or even brought to conscious awareness due to rigid morality. Let's take one classic example from studies of hysteria so that you understand what I mean. A woman develops feelings for her sister's husband. Ouch. But she obviously does not allow herself to even acknowledge them, let alone do something about it. Instead, she suffers silently in what appears to be purely one-sided, morally restrained love. One day she goes for a walk in nature with him. Her sister cannot join them because she is seriously ill. And during that walk, a thought runs through her mind. If she dies, he can finally be mine. The thought horrifies her, obviously. She experiences intense guilt and remorse. And the very next day, the news arrives that her sister's condition is getting worse and she might die soon. The woman becomes paralyzed in her legs. The symptoms persist until psychoanalytic treatment. Then Freud guides the conversation back to the walk, and specifically to the thoughts that originated in her mind during that walk. He cautiously suggests the very ideas that ran through her mind that time. She reacts with outrage and emotional resistance, but the symptoms disappear. She can walk again. And some other time, Freud even saw her at the ball in Vienna with some young, handsome gentlemen dancing around. She was cured. Was it dramatic? Yes. Symbolic? Absolutely. Theatrical? Very much in line with culture of that period. But most strikingly, the moment the conflict was brought up into conscious awareness, the symptoms disappear. The psychic discharge, the conversion of the psychic energy and conflict into somatic symptom was no longer necessary because it was no longer repressed. But today the stage is different. We're no longer going to theater. We're glued to our phones. And with that, the dominant disturbance has shifted. We're no longer primary forbidden. We are commanded. Enjoy. Be visible. Optimize yourself. Get rich. Be happy. You're told that everything is possible. The success is not only glamorous, but available. That you can become a millionaire, a billionaire, a superstar. You can fly to the moon, but only if you want it badly enough. And there is always a product for it. A book, a course, a cream, a supplement, a mindset. The fantasy is simple. Nothing stands in your way except for you. So instead of repression, we get overload. The symptom no longer converts in the body, it collapses the self. Anxiety, emptiness, burnout, chronic fatigue, narcissistic fragility. Sounds familiar? This shift was famously described by Christopher Lush, who argued that modern culture is not producing strong egos, but deeply insecure selves, dependent on validation and terrified of insignificance. And now let's focus on strong egos. Narcissism and narcissistic crisis that we are specifically preoccupied with in this video is not about having too strong of an ego. It's about not having a strong center at all. A strong ego is not grandiosity, ruthless competition, or the compulsive need to win and dominate. It's much closer to what a strong core is in Pilates. It stabilizes you. It allows you to transfer intention into movement, ideas into actions. Without a strong core, every movement collapses. Without strong ego, every frustration feels personal, every delay feels like rejection, and every obstacle feels like a proof of failure. A strong ego does not eliminate doubt. It allows you to stay in contact with reality long enough for something to actually take shape, and that takes time. What we're witnessing now is not a lack of ambition, but a collapse of tolerance for latency. A narcissistic crisis happens when a person's sense of self depends strongly on external validation, and the moment it is withdrawn, the self collapses. At the beginning, there is usually an inflated self-image, not necessarily grandiose, but something that goes along the lines, I have potential, I'm meant for more, I could be exceptional, and these things are great, but the self-image feels good, but it's not yet grounded in actual experiences or sustained effort. It's more of a promise than a structure. And then comes the action. The person tries, they show up, and reality responds slowly or not at all. No instant success, no recognition, no clear feedback. And this is a crucial moment. A strong ego can withstand such a frustration and can tolerate this gap between your idealized self-image and what you can deliver at the current moment. It understands that time, repetition, mastering and polishing its craft, as well as frustration, boredom, and failures are part of building something real. A fragile ego cannot. It experiences delay as narcissistic wound. So instead of thinking it takes time, the self-doubt arises. I'm not special. There is something wrong with me. I was wrong about myself. Nothing's ever happening for me. So to protect itself, the ego starts swinging between two extremes. Inflation, I'm meant for more, people just don't get it, and collapse, I'm a failure, I'll never make it. And this back and forth is precisely what narcissistic crisis is about. It's not about having a personality disorder, as I said at the beginning. It's the mechanism of jumping from one extreme to another, which unfortunately I see everywhere right now, especially among young people, because their sense of self and the sense of their center is yet not fully formed. However, the narratives that we're seeing in our society is that you must have become successful yesterday. It doesn't give you enough time to actually form anything sustainable and solid. But this script can be rewritten, and I'll tell you further. And now, if you're enjoying this video so far, please like and comment if this resonates with you. Also, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll take time to answer to all of them personally with utmost diligence and delight. So as I was saying, because the self is not anchored internally, which happens a lot to young people or to anyone for whom this kind of mechanism has been working already for a while. So it needs constant proof in order to stay intact. Then that proof disappears, like money, likes, praise, feedback, clients, or doesn't arrive as fast as anticipated. The sense of self begins to disintegrate. And then we open our phones. Let's talk about social media. Not sure if I'll be the first one to de-influence you. Social media is a narcissistic paradise. You can alter your body, you can perform success, you can curate your personality, you can fabricate your lifestyle, or at least present a carefully curated fragments of it. And for the first time in history, you are exposed daily to thousands and millions of people doing exactly the same. But you never see the full picture because struggles, the time it takes to build craft and to master your art, heartbreaks and patience required in order to make anything work simply do not fit the Insta frame. And also never forget about the privilege. Not everyone had the same start, and the privilege also accumulates over time exponentially. It's not something you just simply have at the beginning. It does open a lot of doors for you going forward. And there was a very interesting research about it. I'll link it in the comments if you would like to learn more. So all that remains is a single question, torturing question. Am I enough? But can you ever be enough in this society that is structurally built around selling you inadequacy? There is no time to build identity through frustration, limitation, setbacks, and gradual development. Because you were supposed to become famous yesterday. You were supposed to become thin yesterday. You were supposed to be rich already. So what develops instead? As we already learned in the previous chapter, a grandiose sense of self with no grounding in reality, avoidance of frustration and discomfort of making it work, expectations of massive results in minimal time, and giving up when reality doesn't comply. Motivation drops, apathy sets in, self-doubt knocks on the door, or maybe it was always there. And this is exactly the crisis we're going through now. And this is the pathology that has been shaped by our society. So the most interesting question, how do we counter it? Let's get to some good news arena in this video. So what we learned so far, that the mechanism starts with inflation and then drops to criticism and complete depreciation. So the first move is to learn to catch the inflation early. For example, you get an idea, and it's very appealing to start fantasizing what a great idea it is. No, what a brilliant idea it is. This will change everything. This is finally it. That rush feels motivating. But also it's very dangerous. It creates the fantasy that reality might not be able to meet. And I highlight the might part here because execution is strongly dependent on your skill level. And your skill level might be already quite considerable due to the time you've invested in your craft. Or you might be a beginner, which is also fine. So instead of feeding this inflated image of the idea of yourself, of whatever it is that preoccupies your mind, you pause it. And you acknowledge this idea without dramatizing. But then you ground it and you don't wait. Because you know what's the second mechanism. And if you already caught yourself in such a cycle of narcissistic crisis, this is just the mechanism that works on autopilot, on default. So you do need to put some conscious effort in order to change the pattern. So acknowledge it's a good idea. Open up your notebook, get your pen, and start writing. Ask yourself practical questions. What would it take to actually execute it? What's the first small step? Can I do it all on my own, or I need help? And if I need help, who can help me with this? And what could realistically go wrong? The second move would be building tolerance for slow feedback. You stop expecting immediate emotional reward. And I want to emphasize emotional. You act without needing instant proof that you are somehow special, brilliant, genius, or that actually it's even working out for you. You treat effort as a deposit, a long-term investment. And the third move, and probably the most important, is allowing mistakes without self-collapse. They are part of the journey, and I cannot emphasize it enough that you need to plan with margins. You need to assume missteps. You need to understand that not everything will be working out as you imagined, but there is still a chance it might work out even better than you imagined. You expect boredom, resistance, thoughts of giving up, self-criticism, self-doubt, but you understand that this is part of this mechanism, and this mechanism does not define you. It's just something that is very customary in our society right now because of all the reasons I listed before, and I try to be as detailed as possible for you to actually understand why we're living through what we're living, and also still keep a natural viewpoint of this. It's neither bad nor good. You know, if we compare it to Victorian society where people were primarily forbidden, maybe it's better to act and deal with narcissistic crisis, especially in the times where you have so many resources in order to help you. And I hope that this video just added a little bit more clarity into something that you've been going through, and you can already ground it in actionable steps and enjoy building yourself. But in the age of information, where we unfortunately most of the times just trying to get informed instead of actually grounding any of those insights, I do hope that you treat yourself with gentleness and kindness in order to give yourself time to bloom and not force the seasons. So what we learned so far, let's sum everything up. Hysteria belonged to the society and the world of repression. Narcissism belongs to a world of expression and performance. Different societies produce different symptoms, but always along the same logic. The symptom expresses what the culture cannot metabolize. This is why hysteria dominated then, and this is why narcissistic crisis prevails right now. The stage has changed, and so the roles that we are ought to play. I really hope that this video was useful for you. Please give this channel a follow, comment, like. Also, you can push that notification button so that you are notified every time I release a video. It helps this channel a lot. In case you have any questions, as I said, please leave a comment, or if you have anything that you want to share with me, also direct it to the comment section. I wish you a very good day, and I'll see you in the next video.